All right, so these biotic factors can be characterized by who benefits and who doesn't benefit, right? So a few of these, kind of the easiest ones to understand, of course, are predation. Okay, in predation you have the prey species, which is unfortunately negatively affected, and the predator, which is benefited with nutrients and energy, right? Okay, our second one is competition. And in competition, we don't have a predator or prey. We just really have species one and species two. And what's their interaction with each other? Okay, so you're saying one of them is positive and one of them is negative? Do you agree with that? Well, it's not true. They are both negatively affected. All right? Because if the other species wasn't there, then it wouldn't have to compete. Okay, and so just by the fact that they are competing, they are negatively affecting each other. Even if one wins out in the competition, it still had to push the other one aside or get there first or whatever. Okay, so competition is negative for both. Okay, when we move into symbioses, we have a host and a symbiont. And the host is generally the larger, and the symbiont is generally the smaller species. Okay, and you guys got this one right. This one was easy, right? Easy from the Kahoot. Mutualism, what happens? They both benefit. So what are some examples of a mutualism? Not quite. What? Clownfish, anemones, mycorrhizae and tree roots, yeah. Cleaner fish and the eel or whatever fish comes there. Mm-hmm. Good. All right. We also have commensalism. Okay, this is where the symbiont generally is positively associated and the host has no effect. Okay, so this is the remora fish and the shark. So the remora comes and catches a ride on the shark. Shark doesn't really even notice that it's there.
I read that some of the remoras clean off the shark, though.
Yeah. So I guess if it's doing that, then yeah, you could say it was.
So sometimes.
Well, no, it would. Yeah, it would. Could be mutualism.
Okay.
But if it's just catching a ride, then it's just going to be a commensalistic relationship. Okay, and then we have some kind of similar to predation symbioses. So parasitism. Where generally the symbiont is positively associated, but the host is negatively associated. So what's the difference? We already had this with our predation. What's the difference between parasitism and predation?
It doesn't kill.
Yeah, so generally it doesn't kill the host. It just feeds off of it. What's that? It could kill the host, but then it would run out of food, right? So a parasite's generally not eating the whole animal or, Most of it is just maybe sucking blood or eating other parts of it, but not living in the intestines. Okay? And similarly, a pathogen is an infection, usually a microbe, that lives within the host and infects it for a while and decreases the health of the host, but doesn't kill it, but may kill it. All right, there's actually a few more species interactions, but these are all the ones we're going to cover for the class. Okay, so you got these down? You guys have learned these before, right? It's high school stuff. Or and it'll come up again pretty much in all your organismal classes. You'll have this again. Talk about that. Make a little space here. All right, what's a community?
It's all the organisms in one area, right?
Yes, good. How does it differ from a population?
Population is one species.
Okay, good. So a population is a group of one species and a community is so SPP is abbreviation for species, all right? So a group of multiple species in an area is our community. So if we're looking at these interactions between different species, we're looking at communities, okay, even if it's just two species. A population is, you have a population of Canadian geese that live down in the Maury River, or the maple trees on that mountain over there. That's a population you're looking at. But you're only looking at the one species. All right, so that's our community ecology brief introduction to it. All right, so now we're shifting then. So that was community ecology. Actually, we should shift to population ecology. Okay, and generally when looking at population ecology, we want to understand how this population is growing or shrinking over time and what are the factors that are leading to that. And to measure then growth, there are a few different models. These are the most common ones. Exponential growth. Okay, exponential growth occurs with unlimited resources. Okay, and as you all know, there is really no such thing as unlimited resources. At some point, there's going to be a limit. So that means that it's also going to be temporary. But for that period of time where resources seem unlimited, the only thing that's going to affect the population growth is the rate, its reproductive rate, right? So it's going to make this, it doesn't quite curve like that, but J-shaped curve. If this on this axis is n, what does n stand for? The population, the number of population. And on the y-axis, time. Good. So this is, again, temporary. Does occur in some species where, let's say, like in the springtime, where you have an abundance of resources which are available for a short period of time. you can see exponential growth. But eventually, there's a cap on it, and that's what logistic growth models. So this takes into account the carrying capacity, which is abbreviated as K.
Because carrying and capacity both start with Ks.
Yeah, that's it. The carrying capacity, okay? Which is the cap, right? The population at which all the resources are fully exploited and there's no population growth. And it's actually hard to determine, but we're just going to artificially say that K is here. Remember our axes, N is here and T is here. And so at this point, the carrying capacity, the population can't grow anymore because it's going to run out of resources. So in a logistic growth model, your first, in the first period of time, you have what approximates exponential growth. But at a certain point, this is called the inflection point. The rate changes, and now you have a decreased growth rate as you approach carrying capacity until it levels off. So this is an S-shaped curve. It's not a great S, but. So let's say this is, trying to think, let's say deer in the woods, this model here, okay? And we're a wildlife management agency, work for the government. We're trying to figure out how many deer we can take each year and still allow our population to grow. Okay, so I want you to discuss with your neighbor how much of this, so if you were to draw a line, could you take that many or this many? What would be the best point or the most deer that you could take and still allow for the population to, I guess, remain stable? Discuss. I mean, there are a lot of other factors that go into it, but yes, this is a fundamental principle of harvesting anything. So if you're talking about fish from the ocean, if you over-harvest, you're going to make them die, right? Go extinct. If you can keep it above that inflection point, then they will maximally replenish themselves as you take it as well. Yeah. Okay, so human population growth. We're going to talk about this for a second. Okay. Will someone Google me what's the current human population? Google for me. Just Google what's the current human population. Did you look it up? 7.6. Okay. We are at, so we'll put 8 billion. Well, we'll put 8 billion right here. So over time, the human population has grown considerably. And in the past 100 years, however, it has really skyrocketed, right?
Because medicine.
Because of medicine, what else? Well, people have always had lots of kids, in fact, but they don't die. Yeah, so medicine, farming, yes, so that's a big thing. The Green Revolution, being able to produce fertilizers.
And old people don't die.
And so that's, yeah, part of medical care as well. The life expectancy has increased as well. All right, anyone know what the carrying capacity of the Earth is for human population? 12 million, that'd be way down here, right?
We can guess.
Yeah. The estimation is somewhere between 10 and 15 billion, but who you talk to, it depends, okay? But what happens then? What happens if we go to, let's just say this is 20 billion up here? Okay? This is what happens. Okay? We all die. Because we'd be overshooting our carrying capacity. So if carrying capacity is here, and we continue using resources above the carrying capacity, you're shooting yourself in the foot, essentially. Because you'll run out of resources with way too many people on the planet, right? Yeah, or the rich, or the ones with the most guns, or whatever. But it's not expected to do this. The human population is supposed to plateau, I think, somewhere around 12 billion in the next 20 or 30 years. I don't have the exact statistics. But, because what happens in industrialized countries is people stop having as many kids. Okay, so the idea is with the industrialization of third world countries, you'll decrease the number of kids they're having, and then it'll plateau. All right, so there are some countries in Europe where the reproductive rate is lower than number of people are there, the birth rate, right? So they're losing population. So they have to supplement their birth rate with immigration. Anyway, that's all we're going to talk about that. All right, so these are the variables which are important for understanding and calculating our population growth. B is the per capita birth rate. Okay, so if there are 100 people in this population and 10 of them have babies, per capita means we're going to divide this by the total number. So it's going to be 10 divided by 100, or 0.1. Okay, M is the per capita death rate or mortality rate. You have a question?
No, it was answered.
Okay. And let's say there are 5 people that die. Okay, so then it's going to be 5 divided by the total, 100, 0.05. It's going to be our per capita death rate. So then R is our growth rate. Okay, and it equals our birth rate minus our death rate. So what's R in this example?
It is 5 minus 10, which is 5.
Yeah, so you can do it that way, or you could just take the B and the M and subtract. So 0.1 minus 0.05 is 0.05. Okay, so in the logistic growth model, this is all you need. Sorry, in the exponential growth model. You just need to look at the growth rate and the population. But for the logistic growth model, you add another variable, and that is K. What did K stand for? And this is a number that has to be calculated somehow. So you have to either look at all the resources and determine what resources the species needs and what resources are available in that environment, and thus how many individuals that environment could support. Or look at population growths over a period of time and say, all right, this is the maximum right here. That's the carrying capacity. So hard to calculate, but theoretically important to know for realistic population growth. Okay, so what does this look like? Well, if we're going to determine the triangle means delta, or as the Greek letter delta means change. So we're going to look at the change in the change in individuals over a change in time. All we have to do is find out our growth rate and multiply it by the number of individuals in the population. So what was our growth rate from our last example? Okay, so if R equals 0.05, and what was N?
100.
100. How many people do we get after 1 year? Okay, 5 new people. So this is one of the steps that you have to factor in. So 100 times 0.05 equals 5. If I ask how many new people are added to the time period, right, you would say 5. If I say, what's the population after 1 year, what do you have to do? All right, so you have to take your old N plus your new N. Okay? And our new population then is 105. Okay, so let's say we're going to do another one. There's 500 turtles, 35 of them. What's a baby turtle called? I don't even know.
Baby turtle.
A turtlet. 35 turtlets and 50 dead turtles. I don't know how else to say that.
Wow.
I know. Sad. Shredder got to him. All right. All right. Tell me, what's the new population after 1 year? Go ahead. Work on it. Anyway. All right. So there were N equals 100. All right. So tell me, you can just calculate this. Plug it in. What's going to be the change in population over time based on those numbers? Yeah. Okay. All right, so this is going to 200 minus 100 is 100. Divided by 200 is 0.5. 0.5 of 100 is 50. 0.05 times 50 is 2.5, right? So what's the population after 1 year? Good, yeah, 102.5. Don't forget that last step if that's what the question asks. Make sure that you read the question and answer what the question is asking, okay? A lot of people will stop at this step, even if the question is asking for what's the new population. Okay, you guys got this down?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so we're talking ecology. I guess I should have erased this since it's going to go on the internet. Whatever. All right, so what is ecology? did. All right, what is ecology? What do you study in ecology? What's that? Community of species? That's part of it. Okay, with the environment. So if you split their environment into two main groups, what are the parts of their environment?
Abiotic and biotic.
Okay, good. So abiotic and biotic factors which affect living things living in their environment, right? All right, so what are some abiotic factors? Okay, yeah, good. Wind, rain, temperature, water, soil, mineral, all those non-living things. All right, what are some biotic factors? Okay, plants are living things within there. What?
Bacteria.
Okay, those are other living things. What is something you would affect then? How do living things affect each other within their environment? Okay, their communication maybe. Yep.
Taking resources.
Okay, their competition of resources. Yes, so their interactions as well. Okay? Good. Okay, so